Hey everybody, today is July 19th, 2026, and you're listening to the While We Still Can podcast. We are talking about a lot of things, international news, local news, whatever's on our minds. Tina's here today, Tony's here with us. Right now, I'd say the biggest thing in the news is in terms of international crime fighting, the Tate brothers have been brought into custody here in the United States of America.
I think that's an understatement, given the circumstance surrounding what even brought them to the United States. I think in Romania, they were in a position they weren't allowed to be extradited to any nation. And then didn't Trump open the door to let them come to the United States? Or it was Richard Grinnell who actually.
So who are
the
these
crimers
dudes?
in.
What,
Let
what
them
are,
in. Let
what
them
are
in.
these dudes' claim to fame anyway?
They're what do they call it? The Manosphere.
Manosphere?
They're
Oh,
like the Manosphere
Manosphere.
guys who,
Yeah.
they're big bros who abuse women and talk about it openly. They've been indicted in Romania. Romania. Who else has something to do with Romania? Oh yeah, Erica Kirk. But
Yeah,
anyway, they were indicted in
Erica.
Romania for human trafficking. Oh, Erica Kirk, something, child trafficking, something, I don't know, allegedly. So, the Tate brothers, I'm sorry, Tate
It's
brothers.
the Tate
Yeah,
brothers.
the
Could
It's
Tate
the
be
Tate.
brothers.
interchangeable.
Okay, Tony, I just need to know what the fuck was going on with their fucking outfits when they got arrested, okay? Like,
Like,
for being
yeah.
an alpha male, he was shopping in the women's department
Well,
in his purple button down silk weirdo shirt and two tight pants. Sorry.
we have to look at Occam's razor once again. Is I saw Mario Lopez at LA airport years ago. He was getting ready to board another plane, and I'm all, if it walks like a duck and it talks like a duck, it's a duck. And Mario likes dick. I'm duck.
Yeah.
Um, and
Allegedly.
allegedly. So
So
I think
so your gaydar went off. Is
my
that what you're
gaydar has
telling
gone
us?
up tremendous. And
Okay.
well, the other thing to combine it with is their love for the hate of women. Their love for the abuse of women. I mean, Trump is another great example of that. And I've shared information from the Russians that show that they know that Trump hates women and he likes to take it out on them. Things we've read about, in the Epstein files and, his assault to 13-year-old girls and his willingness to slap them, do whatever, because they're non-compliant and he's a weak man. Doesn't it's pretty obvious that these people hate women, and there's something a lot of psychologists say a lot of that has to do with their love of men that they suppress.
Listen, if you are making content to impress other men and you openly hate and abuse women, what other sexuality can I believe that you are? And then it goes along with what we're seeing with the closetocracy here. Their hatred for themselves is being projected onto society as a whole, and
That
then
makes
we're
a
all
lot of
suffering.
sense.
Hmm.
That would explain so much
Well, look, I mean,
across
Lindsey
the board.
Graham, you know, may he
Rest in piss, Lindsay.
yes, yeah, as
Uh,
him and
Josh Hawley wears some gaydar.
yes, I mean, there's plenty of them. Peter Thiel obviously is open gay, but he hates gays, openly gay, although he lives a extreme gay lifestyle and hate it, but does everything to hate the community. You've got a number of examples. Marco Rubio, for example. I mean, this isn't speculation. This isn't allegedly, so to say. And people, we all try to skirt around the subject a little bit. Is there's plenty of evidence out there. There's no reason, to litigate the facts of what's going on with these people, and their depravity is based off of the hate for themselves. In my opinion, is they hate themselves so much they have to take it out on everybody else to feel superior.
Very weird. I just want you to go suck on a wiener. Like, I want that for you. Why do you have to ruin everything else for everybody? Like, go do it. It's fine.
Especially now, who gives a shit now?
Get some counseling. It'll be okay.
Like, if they're of age,
Like-
literally don't give a shit. If it's not a kid or an animal, go for it.
Right.
So
It's a shame that that the fact they didn't get enough hugs or love or acceptance is now spilling over and making the rest of us miserable. It's not okay.
So let's talk about, obviously we're talking about the Tate brothers and the last few days prior to their arrest they spent in Miami partying, and it's all over the news. They were hosted by none other than my frenemy, Paula Zampoli. I mean, we can't even write this stuff. I mean, I can't go to bed to have dreams about things and wake up in the morning and think, oh, this weekend, Paula Zampoli is going to party with the Tate boys brothers right before they get arrested because of international crimes. After having been protected by the president, which Paula Zampoli has also been protected by the president for his crimes that he's been committing recently.
Question.
Mm-hmm.
Who actually has them or took them into custody? Like what level of police?
Marshals. I saw it was the U.S. Marshals took them into custody.
I'm honestly surprised that our law enforcement let that happen.
I agree.
And in Florida, and with all of the shit that DeSantis, he's like, we're going to do the death penalty for pedophiles. And I'm like, your president bestie, like, did that in Florida. So it's just very weird, the push towards that type of legislation, knowing that all of these people are implicated.
Yeah, knowing their history and who they're friends with and what they're all about. Like, what would be the strategy for bringing them in here?
Well, and to me, it goes back to, if you just think as simple as possible, it's an assault on our senses. It's an assault on our psyche. A PSY-OP in the United States. If we embrace these horrible people, you're not going to pay attention to the horrible things we're doing ourselves. If we just shove it in your face how bad these people are, how bad we are, and how much we're getting away with it. I mean, that's the way I view the Zampoli's interactions all the time, because he very much tries to paint it in everybody's face. I mean, today he posted a picture of himself with Giovanni at the World Cup Championship in New Jersey, and he titled it "Me and my Maestro and his muse," and he said, "Air Force or Marine One just landed."
They're
And
using our fucking airplanes to transport.
Well, I'm curious if I'm curious if he did fly on Marine One, whether it be with or without the president. We know the president's actually attending, and I saw some pictures already of him getting booed. But why is Zampoli? What is his official role as a U.S. global special envoy that requires he fly to the FIFA World Cup with the president of the United States, just like when he went
on our dime?
Yeah, on our dime.
Okay, hold on. I found the article. The U.S. Marshals confirmed to BBC, this is a BBC article, that the Tates had been taken into custody, while a U.S. Department of Justice spokesperson said the arrests were pursuant to extradition proceedings, because Britain actually filed some more charges. So there's a total, I believe, of 59 different charges for these guys. But I just need to... If anybody has seen the video of them being arrested, for one, it looked like a movie. For two, they were smiling in parts of it. And part of me is just like, is this a way to get them to a safe place?
Well, part of me was that this is just another distraction, too. I think it could be a combination of both. It's a narrative that they're just throwing out there, creating this distraction in a way that we don't pay attention to the other shit. It's all gaslight. It's always gaslight.
Yeah, what are we missing? What are we being distracted from? Interesting.
And, I always look at things, I try to look at things from the, try to pull myself out of the fray of things to kind of see as an overview. And I always come back to the most basic thing of, the Tate brothers are truly, a sensational distraction for most, because even at work today, I was asking people, oh, did you hear about the Tate brothers? And some of them knew all about it and others knew nothing about it. But the fact that some of them knew all about it told me they know more about the Tate brothers than they do about what Trump's up to and all this other stuff. So to me, it's like throwing Kanye West. It's a spoiler candidate. The story is a spoiler candidate. to distract us from everything else and pull our.
Well, I wonder if it's like, oh, we're doing something.
Yes.
Like, look, look, the Trump administration took down the Tate brothers when in reality it was fucking Britain that did something. He invited them over here.
Well, and you're absolutely right there, because they always tout how it was Trump who arrested Epstein. It was the Trump administration who did anything with Epstein, which is all complete bullshit in terms of the reality of what happened there. And I think you're right with the Tate brothers is this is a coordinated event that they could use to their advantage to act as if they're doing something, but in fact they're just protecting them.
Well, I'd be interested to see where the U.S. Marshals like extradites them, or do they die in prison because they know too much? Like, what are we doing? An Epstein 2.0 Jean-Luc Brunel combo?
It could be, but it keeps coming back. And somebody mentioned in my comments today, because I could get tagged by people, oh, did you see Zampoli was with the Tate brothers? I'm like, of course I saw Zampoli was with the Tate brothers. Amanda sent me something about it. And it just keeps going back to the fact that, what's going on with Zampoli. I've said from the beginning, watch and see how much they allow him to get away with. And he continues to flaunt all of this stuff in everybody's face and get away with everything, because he has leverage over Trump because of what he knows about Melania and the agreements that he said they have openly on TV. He said it.
Melanoma, she's entering the chat.
And, this goes back to what we were talking about before we got on air was, I always go back to that original article that I found that was posted in Italy and in Iran, but it was the same author. And I was telling Lisa earlier that I actually tried to reach out to that author, but I haven't heard anything back. And he doesn't really pop up anywhere else now on social media or anything like that. But I always thought it was interesting that Casablancas was in there, which of course we would expect to be involved in all of this. Jean-Luc Brunel with Zampoli, even Berlusconi, and Flavio Briatore, because they're all in his circle. But I always found it interesting that Joseph Mifsud was always thrown into that, because it's clear that there's a Russian connection. Mifsud has been deemed a Russian asset, even though the Trump narrative has always been that he is a U.S. intel asset who tried to set up Papadopoulos, but all worldwide he's more known as a Russian asset. And I always thought it was weird that in that whole mix of things in this article talking about Melania's grooming in the early 90s and everything else, that Mifsud was thrown into the mix because he was such a small spot on the radar during all of this Russian stuff. He was the guy who deemed George Papadopoulos a coffee boy, or no, Caputo was the guy that deemed, my buddy Caputo deemed, but Mifsud is the one who Simona Mangiante worked for prior to her meeting George Papadopoulos. And then, so if you look at the fact that Simona has also been accused of being a Russian spy until George's parents were bought off, it seems, if you followed the story at all. It clearly shows that Mifsud had intelligence ties to Russia. And if he was in the mix way back at the beginning of the Melania stuff, the one thing this article points out to is they called the Melania operation Shining Diamond. It was an operation. And look where Melania is now.
Right. Have we heard that term anywhere else? I'm trying to think. That would tie things together. I don't know that I have.
Shiny. Well, it just always reminds me of that. Was it a photo shoot with a trench coat or whatever? And they were calling her like were they calling her the president of the United States?
The first woman president of the United States. So in 1993.
Okay, and this was in 93?
Yeah, 93. Yep. But what I told Lisa earlier too is that was actually a trench coat ad.
This is weird, okay? This is fucking weird. And it's like a Simpsons fucking episode. Who's writing it, okay? And we already know who's writing it because Trump declassified it the other day, trying to say that it was China when they're... Very weird, very weird. But it always goes back to Russia, 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 and
Yes.
people are always
It
like,
really does.
"Oh, that got proven
Right.
wrong." I'm like, okay, if you would have read the Mueller report, you would clearly know that there is a difference between what this administration says and what they do, and they just expect you not to even go look, and most people don't. But that's where your ADHD friends come in with their choo-choo train hyper focus. Okay, but these people, it really does all go back to Russia and Israel. But really, did Israel really kind of come from Russia too, is kind of what I'm
Well,
saying.
yeah, let's, and I love you said that, because the thing is, you've got Zionists and you've got, the state of Israel, you've got Jewish state, everything else. And, we could look back and we could jump to a lot of conclusions based off of the timing of the creation of the Jewish state, the timing of the creation of the CIA, the timing of various other things that have gone on worldwide over the last 80 years. Um, but Russia has always been in the mix of that. And, where does it put us now in terms of I don't even know what I'm trying to say. Please fill in the gap. Uh,
Again, it's the rewriting of history. Everything that we were taught really. I'm
oh
finding
yes.
out was a lie,
Well,
and it actually brings it all around. And I hate to say this phrase here, but the New World Order, and what even fucking was World War II? If we're finding out that the Soviets and the fucking were they friends?
well, here's the one thing I was going to say is, or the easiest way to put it is, look at all the current leaders or of Israel, and see where they originated from, and their
I
history, and their even what their real names are. I mean, I've never changed my name in the real world, other than variations of things based off of social media and stuff like that. But when it comes to legally
Well,
changing your names from something to Benjamin Netanyahu, or
what's
from
his
something
story?
to the Kushners,
Hmm.
Where's BB from originally?
Poland.
Poland. Okay, okay.
Didn't he spend
Um,
time in the United States when he was young?
He did. He actually went to school in, I think, Harvard. I think he went to Harvard. Uh,
we need some Harvard people that were his like classmates. We need to know how weird he was, okay? Because I know he was fucking weird. Um, well, and also I wanted to ask a question, and this might be a dumb question to ask, but how does one become actually like? There's no way to test if you're Jewish, right?
no, and
Because
and
it's
I
a
agree. And if we're gonna put it out there a little more clearly, is it? There's a theory that the state of Israel has been preyed upon by people who have absconded their identity in a way that has recreated history and made them the victors and the rightful overlords of the world. Uh,
the
Right.
puppets.
Yes, the puppet. Yes. So, I mean, that's ultimately what's happening, is when you look at the actual Jewish history and use common sense based off of time frames of, thousands of years ago, Jews were not super light complected white people, white looking people. They were
Right.
more Moorish,
Probably
African.
more Palestinian looking
Yes. Yeah.
or of that
Yeah, I mean, even
tone.
Jesus, I mean, all natural renditions of Jesus that have come up have indicated that he had, woolly dark hair. That's what the Bible says. And, with woolly means curly. And, that is not a trait. I don't see either of you with naturally curly hair right now. Um, so, I mean, we don't have to, talk around it so much. I mean, obviously, there's this theory that a certain group of people use their powers over the last 100 years, probably, to create a state that they were able to control and create surrounding this religion that has been these people that have throughout our history, known history, have been victimized. And they just absconded that victimization in a way to play a victim while they destroy things. Is that a good way to say it?
And well, and again, I do want to point out that like how probably the world is very pissed at Americans, like, what the fuck are you, why are you not doing anything? Um, we are. So I do not want for all Jewish people or Israelis to feel like I feel that way about them either. It's never the whole group, it's always the extremist part of the group. And if we can all come to that conclusion, and I feel like a lot of people are just like black and white thinking, I'm like, this is gray area thinking here. So it's never, humans are humans, and but the bad ones, whichever group they're from, are doing some bad shit. And
Well,
so that's when our discernment comes in and our understanding,
Right.
like,
Multiple things can be true at once.
yes.
one of the outstanding things that I saw, again, from that overview of reviewing the Steele dossier had to do with the focus on Russian Jews through
Right.
that Russia had. Is, I mean, literally throughout the Steele dossier, which is a compilation of 15 separate reports. It's 35 pages, and it's usually 2 or 3 pages per report. The consistent thing throughout that is their focus on manipulating Russian Jews worldwide. I mean, it's very clear.
Well, and that reminds me of our friend Craig Unger that we've had on before, talking about how after World War II, our government was in, like, had asylum for Jewish people over in Europe and Russia and Asia. And so we had an influx of Russian Jews, all of it. And that is where they allegedly scooped up Donald Trump as an asset in New York.
Mm.
Was the Jew, what, I don't know if they were Jewish, but the Russians that had come over here for asylum after World War II. So, I mean, yeah.
Well, I just read something, or somebody actually posted a comment to me about Meyer Lansky recently and someone else's ties to Meyer Lansky. And I can't remember what it was off the top of my head, but he was like the head of the Jewish mob who oversaw, since the early 19th or 20th century, who oversaw the gambling operations in the Caribbean and the United States.
He was a name that, when I think of the beginning of organized crime in the United States, I think of that name.
Well, and the one thing, and just to put it all into very simple perspective for people, is Brett Ratner, who is the producer, director, whatever, of the Melania movie, who was also
Yes.
in the Epstein files, and he considered Meyer Lansky, not Meyer Lansky, he considered the man, and I don't know the man's name, who was groomed to replace Meyer Lansky, the closest thing he had to a father growing up. It's easy, you can look it up online. But Brett
Yeah.
Ratner, the guy who paid Melania $35 million, whatever, and on that movie that is literally the worst in history, I
They
think.
had to pay people to go see, and they still didn't go.
Still force military people to go see. I'm like, people don't understand how far into this all we are. Yeah.
Could that have been Vincent DiCarlo?
Yes. Yeah. And that Brett Ratner considered him to be the closest thing he had to a father, and he was the guy who was supposed to take over for Meyer Lansky. Once
Yes.
I think it was, I don't know if it was one of the FBI reports that I came across that I saw that, but I came across it somewhere from a very legitimate source. And, Epstein, they say, and I've talked about this, he was part of kind of like the kid Jewish mob, the growing up kids that are trying to get into whatever they're getting into. And that's what a lot of those stories in the 50th birthday book talk about, the Seagate Chronicles. There's 3 pages, I think, of the Seagate
Yeah.
Chronicles, and all those stories talk about, like, they talk about each of his group of people having been influencing stories throughout their neighborhood, if you actually read them. And,
Yeah.
it sounds like a bunch of little hoodlums running around town, playing pranks and doing different things. But when you tie it to their likely connection to the Russian mob as kids, or not Russian mob, Jewish mob as kids, it starts to make a little more sense, especially when we know Epstein shortly, at 16, he graduated high school. And then shortly after, he traveled to Europe with one of his buddies, freely, like going, staying in hostels and doing whatever. And then and in the birthday book, I think it's his grandfather who wrote, "Oh, your time in Europe likely helped you get the job at Dalton," which was the job he was hired for, unqualified to be a teacher of at a
Right.
girls' school that was, and their time didn't overlap. A lot of people don't understand this. Donald Barr actually left the school right before Epstein actually started working there. It's just
See.
speculated that Barr influenced Epstein's hire, but I honestly
Okay.
think it was much deeper than just Donald Barr himself. And that's where, again, I don't want to continue to repeat things we shared before, but that's where Epstein ended up meeting the parents of one of the children, who was Bear Stearns. I think it was Bear, and then he ended up getting the job at Bear Stearns after Dalton after 2 years with some scandal that was being swept under the rug while he was at Dalton. Like he would show up at like the kids' parties, like that they would have,
Interesting.
Yeah.
So we're learning it's not what you know, it's who you know. And when you're a dirty dog, other dirty dogs give you jobs that you're not fucking qualified for. That is the ultimate DEI, guys.
Good point.
You're absolutely right. And I think Paulo's bully is the what do they call that?
Poster child?
The epitome of it. He is like the picture, if you looked up the dictionary in terms of that type of DEI, DUI,
Right.
WI.
A little bit of both. A little bit of both.
According to Epstein files, Paulo's a killer.
Ooh.
According to the Epstein files?
Yes. There's an email where they indicate Paulo and a number of other, Prokhorov and a couple women, where Epstein literally calls them killers.
Oh.
And makes media doesn't even pay any attention to that.
That's crazy. Tainted. Very crazy. You like what I did there? I've been waiting all episode to fucking do that. Tainted. Crazy. All right, guys. Well, I better go cook dinner, but I'm really glad we got some taint conversation in, and we'll have to see where this goes.
I think, and I think I'd like to end this episode by showing my taint. So
hey, hey, as long as it's cleaned up for me, won't be the first or the last one I've seen, Tony. Lisa has to go clean her ears out now. Okay, guys. Well, I hope you guys have a good night, and hopefully some more rapists and abusers get arrested tomorrow.
We can only hope.
Bye, guys.
Bye.